Well, ahoy, hoy, scorekeepers, welcome aboard. It's time for your favorite podcast, The Score. As always, I am Rocky, and I'm here with my two amazing co-hosts, the fabulous Lee Bynum. Hello, Lee Bynum.
Hello.
And of course, Paige Reynolds, Iyabo Inawale. Hello, how are you?
Hello, governor.
Oh my goodness. So this is actually funny because I know that our iPhones are listening to us. Because I always torture my husband because in 7th grade we did a production of Oliver, and
oh dear.
And it was between me and this little white blonde boy for Oliver. School was not ready for a black Oliver, I guess. But I always torture him by singing "Where Is Love" in my "Where is love? Does it for the sky?" And then he came into the kitchen and a child singing "Where Is Love" was given to him by the algorithm.
Oh my gosh.
And so so all of this Cockney, I'm just being surrounded by Cockney this week. It's very strange. But anyway, sorry, how are you? How's what's going on? What's new? What's happening?
Oh, out here in the world.
Yeah.
Out here in the world, I feel like I'm really, really busy, especially trying to get this doula training done that me
yes how is it going?
It's going great. It's just crunch time getting the curriculum done, so I'm hunched over a laptop quite a bit these days, just trying to find time for joy, movement, having my eyes away from a screen in between time. So yeah, that's me.
No, I feel you. It has been a wild couple of weeks. Just crazily busy, and the show opening, Don Giovanni opening last week, and just family drama, and just trying to keep my head above water, trying to drink as much water as I can, mind my business, get outside, move my body. But yeah, no, it's whew. And what's going on with you, Lee?
None of those things. I'm literally just sitting over here, not drinking enough water and not going anywhere to move my body. But
well, rest is important too.
Rest is very, very important, and so is seeing shows, and that's been like the one of the great joys of being back and working at an organization where there are literally dozens of shows happening every week. Like I've been seeing shows like 3 nights a week.
What are some of the great shows that you've seen?
Yeah,
or well, maybe not. Maybe they're not all great, but what are some of the shows you've seen?
Every now and then one is great. So I will talk. I'll share about 2 shows because I really have a couple of things that have made a big impression on me. So on Broadway this past week, I saw a show called The Thanksgiving Play by a playwright named Larissa FastHorse. It is believed that it is perhaps the first play on Broadway ever written by an Indigenous woman. And
that's kind of wild.
It is kind of wild. And
wait, the first?
Yeah, but what?
Right.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Welcome to America.
Do better.
Wow. Wow.
She has done a really amazing thing. The play is a satire about a group of white people who have won a grant to hold space for the Indigenous community by putting on a play about the first Thanksgiving. And the play is held at an elementary school, and it's absolutely brilliant and ridiculous and absurd and upsetting, especially for any of us who have worked for any amount of time in the inclusion, diversity, equity, and access space. And it
Mhm.
really pokes holes that a lot of the limitations of white allyship. I think that's a really diplomatic way of putting it, right? And just the sort of setup of four white people in a classroom, obviously like at a middle or high school, putting on a play about Thanksgiving for elementary kids, and them trying to figure out you know how to address the erasure of Native Americans in a way that's also really, really hilarious and thoughtful. So I recommend, if you are in the New York area, you should see it. It's a, like 90 minutes, so that's a great amount of time, right? You're not investing your whole weekend in it. And to other people who may be in a position to produce theater in other places, I highly recommend producing this play. I actually think it would do really well in the Twin Cities, both
Mm.
given the general engagement with Native American culture there, and also the ways that these issues show up at a lot of organizations, right? And I think
Yeah.
there are lessons for all of us in kind of seeing honestly the absurdity of trying to have certain kinds of conversations without the presence of groups of people who are at the very crux of what the issue is, right? And I it was there were so many very eye-opening moments, and I saw the show with a friend of mine who heads an organization, an arts organization, and she's a very, very thoughtful and patient and committed leader, who alongside me when we were walking out, like we really did get to examine a lot of our beliefs and practices and ask each other, to what extent are we working towards solutions, and where are the places where we ourselves may be problems, right? Like where is
Mhm.
our own myopia sort of showing up and limiting the good decision making. So I really appreciated it, and I am now a huge fan of Larissa FastHorse.
Mm. What did you
Um,
say? The limitations of white allyship? And
yes.
you say I have a gift for understatement.
Touche.
No, no, that sounds amazing. I totally want to see that. I hope you
Yes,
do.
you
Hope it
do.
comes
Yeah.
here.
Yes, you do. Oh my goodness. And Larissa, if you are out there listening, we want you to be on the show. Even if we don't
Yes.
Absolutely.
book guests
Hmm.
for the rest of the season, we will figure it out because it was so wonderful and so conversation worthy. And speaking of wonderful conversation worthy pieces by people of color, I also got to see Champion, playing at it's since closed, but playing at the Metropolitan Opera, with a cast of extraordinarily talented Black singers primarily, and also the great Stephanie Blythe, who is extraordinarily talented and not Black. Really thoughtful, challenging, uncomfortable, beautiful, devastating show based on the life of Emil Griffin, a West Indian boxer, in the first half of the 20th century. And it also explores his relationships with men as well as with women, as well as his very complicated relationship with his mother, and sort of the ways that boxing opened a certain amount of space for his personhood, and also just the realities of being queer and Black and an immigrant, at any point in history,
Yeah. Yeah.
complicates anybody's life, right? But it was really fascinating. Um, Seeing it multiple times gave me an opportunity to come at it from really different vantage points. And I, you know, actually also got to meet Terence Blanchard after one of them, which was
Oh, okay.
sort of
Yay.
a dream come true. I didn't get to go into detail about how much I loved every score he ever wrote for every Spike Lee movie, but it was just kind of an amazing experience, and Latanya Moore and Ryan Speedo Green and Eric Owens and Christy Swan and others are giving really beautiful performances. It does my old ticker good to see this piece with this particular subject matter on stage at the Met, and to know that because of Mr. Blanchard, we have two important pieces that have been entered into the performing canon about Black queer topics. And that's not a thing that I was expecting to see in the opera at this particular juncture. But I'm super excited about that bit of movement, and thinking about some of the commissions coming with Jesse Montgomery and Missy Mazzoli and other people, just kind of where programming at the Met is going to go. And I'm super excited about it, and glad I'm right next door and can walk over anytime I want and plop my behind in a seat and, and get a little bit of culture, and perhaps Black culture on a given night at the Metropolitan Opera. Look at
Yay,
Come on
go
now.
us.
I'd love to see it.
Absolutely, you'd love to see it. No,
It's
that's
a new day.
Yes, it is. And speaking of queerness and exciting news, what was this about the gender categories being eliminated?
Well, there has been a push the last couple of seasons, especially probably literally everywhere, but certainly in the New York theater community, to eliminate the gender categories from the major theater awards, right? So instead of like, your best actor, best actress kind of a thing, you're now seeing more awards with like outstanding lead performance in a play, outstanding lead performance in a musical, right? So you have, actors, irrespective of what their gender identity is, in the same categories, acknowledging that we are no longer being served. I don't know if we were ever being served, right? But that it just really doesn't make sense in the current environment to have this kind of rigidity when we ourselves don't have this kind of rigidity, right? I mean, between the three of us on this podcast, each of us has our own perspectives about our gender identification, right? And if this is the case just with the three of us, and if you think about the entire expanse of the New York performing community,
I can
like,
only imagine.
it's so overdue. So you saw it this year with the Lucille Lortel Awards, which recognize performances off Broadway, and you saw it with the Drama Desk Awards that do Broadway and off Broadway. Not yet with the Tony Awards, but we can certainly keep thinking about it and keep pushing and keep advocating for that kind of a change. But I think seeing that it can be done will go a long way to dismantling the straw man, where people are saying, but what happens if you have a man and a woman in the same category? I mean,
everything will explode.
Right, exactly. I mean, we have managed to process this in other kinds of categories where, I don't know, a male director and a woman director and a non-binary director could all be nominated in the same category. And
what?
right?
Huh?
The sun will still come up and go down as it typically does, right? So I am taking this little piece of progress and, this week allowing that to erase the memories of having to see certain people who used to be president popping back on my TV.
Oh Lord,
I didn't ask for that. Didn't ask for it. Didn't want it.
No,
Didn't
Lee,
invite it in.
I went a whole 24 hours without thinking about that.
Well, imagine being.
Good Lord. Well, I will take this little bit of progress however I can get it. So that's wonderful news.
Yeah, it is. And I think it's, it looks like it has enough of maybe a trend, some momentum, some pressure being applied. We'll see this elsewhere. So yay.
Absolutely.
I also feel like probably it'll make a difference once folks realize how many truly excellent artists are gender diverse
Mhm.
and how accepting your little award to a lot of us is just not worth getting misgendered. And everybody,
Say that.
like to a
Mhm.
lot of us, it's not worth going up on stage in front of everybody getting misgendered. It's just it feels pretty terrible.
Yeah.
So when you realize that and people keep, declining invitations or whatnot or declining nominations, then I feel like it'll make sense. It'll hit.
Absolutely.
Well, speaking of amazing queer artists, we have one on the show today. I'm so excited. Um,
Yay.
this was an artist that I met when I was up in Vancouver last fall, and she is just brilliant and amazing and funny, and I think you all are so going to enjoy spending the next few minutes with Morgan-Paige Melbourne, who is just she's an interdisciplinary artist, composer, pianist child prodigy at 3 years old. Like, what?
That girl.
Yes. Absolutely. And just has just a ton of just amazing insights about the industry and about education and the way that she approaches her art. And so cannot wait to share this interview with all of you. So stay tuned and we'll be right back with the fabulous Morgan-Paige Melbourne. All right, everybody, welcome back. I hope you had a good break. We are so excited today to have our next guest on the show. This is a wonderful, wonderful artist and just all around just like cool human being that I got to meet when I was up in Vancouver. If you were able to catch the panel or the podcast that Vancouver Opera put out a couple of months ago, you have already heard her brilliance. But today on the show, we have Morgan-Paige Melbourne. Woo!
Hello.
So excited.
Hello, hello.
So, as an explorer of human nature, Morgan-Paige Melbourne is a queer interdisciplinary artist based in Toronto, Ontario. Raised in a household of professional touring musicians, she and the piano became inseparable at age 3. We're talking child prodigy child. Today, with this great ingrained love of music, there is no particular genre that she sticks with experiences ranging from scoring short films to solo performances. Her work and story were featured in Music Works magazine Winter 2020-2021 issue, the Whole Note magazine, Ludwig von Toronto, and Toronto Guardian. Past projects include Bin Chicken film collaboration with Toronto Dance Theatre and Alyssa Martin, the Magic Wallet short film, Mission Sankofa short film, Hillside Insides, The Sound of Light, Where Do I Go short film with Tapestry Opera and Rock Bottom Movement, 21C music festivals, New Music in a New World, a commissioned work and performance for Suoni per il Popolo. I am so sorry if I mispronounced that. Sound art installation, My Ancestor Summons Me at Mocha Toronto, and so many other things. And I cannot miss the world premiere of her improvisational work, A Time to Exist, in Kerner Hall, and Wavelength Summer Thing, opening for headliner Backwash. Am I saying that right, or is it Back X Wash?
Backwash, you got that right.
All right, cool. But on top of that, just a wonderful, brilliant, Black, amazing artist, and we are so just honored to have you on the show today. Thank you so much for being here, Morgan.
Thank you so much for inviting me on.
Of
I'm so excited
course.
for this.
Of course. So, I mean, we mentioned at the top of that bio that you found your love for music and piano and performance at age 3. That's incredible. So can you tell us a little bit more about that and like your family and what it was like growing up in a musical household and how you came to find this great love for the piano and
Oh,
for classical?
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So I'm the youngest of three kids, and my parents are originally from Bahamas. My dad, he was Jamaican, but then moved to Bahamas when he was really young. And when my parents were in high school, it's the whole situation of like, oh no, love him or hate him. What's going on here? So like at first my mom can stand my dad. But then over the years they just started building this wonderful connection. But they started off with their own band because they saw each other perform in their school choirs and their school bands. And my dad had a best friend who he was really connected with, and who was a keyboardist. So towards their late teens, early 20s, that's when they started building up their own band called Cherokee Rose, and they had a manager, and they toured around quite a bit. So that was actually one of the ways how they were able to immigrate to Canada. Was because of touring and getting a lot of the gigs in a lot of resorts within Ontario, but still touring around Canada for a bunch of their works. And so they did all kinds of music, pretty much every single genre that you could think of. Because a lot of the times they did covers of various songs. They were house bands a lot of times, but they still performed a lot of their own works. And so they were really known for that for quite a while. And this is well over many years ago. And so when my siblings came around, they also got a chance to experience some of the tour life with them a little bit. I didn't yet. I was too little. I came around when they were in the retiring age a little bit of touring. And so they eventually changed their name from Cherokee Rose to M2P when they released their albums. And so a lot of it was definitely a lot more of R&B and reggae and pop. That was kind of something that they geared towards the end before their band went on hiatus. And so when I came along, that's like kind of just what I got to see and got to grow up in. And as well as my siblings are also musicians too. So it was just like arts and music, and definitely something I'm super grateful to have been around for sure, because it's hard to imagine like what could I have done outside of that. Like I don't know, I have no idea. But it was definitely a blessing for sure. And I think what I have been told, because I don't have that many memories of anything past 3 or before 3 4 years old. I mean, like we're literally babies. But I was told that when one of our at the time we were part of a church, and one of the members who was a close family of ours had a piano that she just wanted to get rid of, and she wanted to give it to us because we didn't have an acoustic piano at home at the time. And so when I was 3, it was said to me that I just gravitated to the piano just automatically, and just started just randomly making up random things on the piano, you know. And then eventually they decided to just put me right into lessons right away. So I was a part of like a young children's music group that was part of like group lessons and everything. And so they taught us how to write songs, how to write music. And so I did that from like ages like 3 to 5. And then that's when we ended up moving to the next town that I ended up growing up in, which is Guelph. So I was born in Huntsville and then moved to Guelph when I was like around close to 5 6. And that's when I started doing more private lessons from there. But yeah, it was just surrounded by music and art and the appreciation for it growing up.
That's so cool. It's like you were just sort of it's like genetic almost.
Yeah. Yeah, because my grandparents as well, like my on both sides, they were also musicians. I know my grandfather on my mom's side, he played the trumpet, was also a violinist as well. And both both of my grandparents, they also had their own ministries too on the island as well, so there's always like a lot of music. I was not born at any point in time when that was happening around, but that's definitely what I've heard. So yeah, it's definitely been passed around all the family. Like I also have cousins who are in the music scene as well and doing their thing, so it's pretty cool seeing how all of us are venturing within our own innate nature of who we are within the arts.
That's beautiful. I love that.
So I'm wondering also, like, well, clearly, like your family again, like it sounds like just genetic, the just being steeped in like music and art, and like that's beautiful. Who else has impacted your journey as an artist? And like who is a mentor to you, or just who you like really looked up to, who's like influenced you?
Oh, whew, that's definitely a good list of people. But someone that truly stands out to me um was my former piano teacher who passed just a few months ago.
Oh, I'm
Um,
sorry.
Thank you. Thank you. She was like, because I never had a chance to really grow up with my grandparents because they all, majority of them died before I came around. And I only knew my one grandmother just a little bit, but I was still too young to really be able to build a relationship with her. So my piano teacher, somehow, some way, she dealt with me throughout my entire teen years. My entire teen years. And every time I'm like, how did this woman do this? I have no idea. But she was literally like a grandmother to me. And she was very strict but sweet, but she definitely shaped me or helped shape me into the person that I am today, especially in the classical scene. So she like dug me into all sorts of genres and styles and playing techniques in classical, contemporary, and romantic era. And a lot of the times I focused on like specific composers. And at the time, like when I was throughout my teens, like towards like preteens, teenage years, going to my 20s, I had a very difficult time emoting verbally. So my main way of describing how I feel was always through music and especially through piano. Because I legit have problems trying to say how I feel. And a lot of the times I was in spaces where I felt like I couldn't say how what's going on with me because I felt like either no one wanted to listen, but also getting bullied a lot of times. So I was very isolated as a kid.
That's
So music was definitely a voice for me. And so she really helped me be able to truly share how you can translate it without words and put it into melodies and into songs. And that's something that one has always interested in me, but two, since that was already like came natural to me in a sense, she really helped me really hone it. And throughout the number of injuries and everything that has happened over the course of the years, she just stuck it out with me. I'm still like, how and why, but thank you. So because she also went through a lot of shit in her life, and I think she just had this aura about her that was just so beautiful and so genuine. Like you can literally just feel her energy as soon as you walk into the room, and that was just so intoxicatingly beautiful. And I think like she's definitely one of the people that had a major impact in my life.
Hmm.
Gosh.
That's
Gosh, that is
really sweet.
so special. And I gotta say that I feel like I can hearing that now, I feel like I can hear her impact in your music, because I was thinking like this feels very like emotional and cinematic, like big feelings through melodies. I mean, there's also like what you do with the voice, but even just through the chords, and I was like, oh, this just like swells of emotion. So I that's so beautiful that like I see where where that started. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you. And it's like, yeah, I've also just been obsessed with large sounds my entire life, because there's just like it's just
Yes.
I just love epic sounds, epic cinematic sounds.
Yes.
And it's like I want to do that. But I'm like, but I don't necessarily want to copy anybody. I want to see what I can do with in my own way, right? And so a lot of the times, like, I know for a fact that my music is not something that you can just like, listen to while you're on a walk and easily enough. But it's like that's okay. That's okay, right? Because it's I noticed without realizing that there's of yeah, deep emotions that go into it. Half the time I don't even realize that I'm doing it by accident. I'm like, oh, okay, never mind. So much so that I had like a couple of my friends say, they're like, Morgan, I love your music, but half the time I have to prepare myself, because otherwise it's like it's a whole state of mind. I'm like, I get that. I get that. But yeah, no, like movie soundtracks has always been my favorite thing. So it's like I want to be able to like build on that. But how can I do that in a very alternative rocky way, but not quite, and just play with sounds? Playing with sounds is just fun. It's just fun. Fun. And then like the effects and everything, it's a fun time. It's like what kind of weird can I come up with now? Like that's the whole exploration part. That's super fun for me.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I could continue to nerd out about cinematic sounding things, but I'm gonna let my co-host get in. Before I nerd out, I
will. So one thing that we talked about when we met, when we were on that panel, is creating spaces that are, especially within opera and classical music and all of these spaces that are anti-racist, that are safe for queer folks, for other folks of marked marginalized identities. And I know that that's something that's really important to you. And so I am just sort of curious to get your take on sort of, especially like given the last few years, of just insanity of being a human being on Earth, but of course, being a Black person on Earth, being a queer person on Earth. Are there any new spaces that have opened up for you, or any new challenges that you have found, or anything that you've been willing to try? Because or gotten the opportunity to try, rather, because I guess the big question is like, can this be an anti-racist space, given, so much of the programming that we're seeing, and so much of just the history of this art form? I'm just curious about your take on all of that. I know that was a huge question and I just asked you like 8 questions, but like feel free to pick one.
No,
Whichever one you like the most.
I love I love the big questions. I love the big questions. It is a very difficult thing, and I'm saying that very lightly in a very sarcastic tone, but it is very it's an interesting thing, So a lot of the times I will say that I am very, very grateful that I have friends and peers who are also of a similar mindset as we are. And when they're just sick and tired of this, it's like, let's just create our own space. Because a lot of times there will be spaces where they don't want to change what's going on because of fear of change, of But that fear of change is just wanting just basic human equity and equality. And especially if you're not somebody can who's either a part of like POC communities or queer communities, it is understandable to like to a degree where it can be hard to understand what's happening. But even if you want to be like an ally, but you're not too sure, like there are resources and steps that you can take. But I think because especially in a lot of our Western traditional um classical contemporary culture, it's so deeply ingrained to just always focus on just the one thing and barely expand it to something else, which I find is kind of sad. Because even if you think of it like even like centuries ago, or even just 50 years ago when there was new music, they would still bring out those new pieces, those new opera works, those all these new works to be celebrated. And they would have that as like a full season. But now it's almost as if it seems to be rare in the case nowadays.
Mhm.
And so yeah, I see people who I've witnessed those who are just sick and tired of the same thing and just legit doing their own thing, creating their own spaces, because it's not accessible or even safe to be in those spaces, you know? And I think that's both an incredible thing, but it's also like it shouldn't have to be the case that that's the reason why we're creating these spaces. We should be able to create these spaces because we want to, and not just because out of the lack of what's unavailable or what's unsafe. You
Mhm.
know, it's so my whole thing, no matter how long or arduous it is, I will forever champion safe spaces,
Mhm.
forever champion safe spaces, and will focus on highlighting those organizations and communities because they do need to be highlighted and they do need to be recognized. And how else is that going to happen if I'm not actively a part of that or we're not actively a part of that? So there's always some way or some form of building blocks to be able to build that, you know, but now it's just slowly but surely, like, you know, like, but the main thing is people are tired. People are tired of taking crap now.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know, it's
yeah.
like it's been too long. It's been far too long, and we've dealt with too much on our backs. And so it's just like like I see so many people ready for a change because like nobody wants to take it anymore. Like we're done. We're done.
Mhm.
And honestly, I noticed that a lot of organizations are scared of that because they're realizing that one, they're losing people, and two, if they don't change their mandate or their missions, that's really going to look bad on them. So on both a PR view, but also on a community view, it ain't looking very good. It's right. Like
Mhm.
people people are tired. It's like I'm tired. Like, you know,
Yeah,
yeah.
no, and I've noticed that, there seems to be this very big shift. In 2020, it was like, oh my God, we have to change all of these things. None of this is working or whatever. And I'm a big proponent of like everybody knows everything. We've been dealing with all of this for hundreds and hundreds of years, like sort of, you know, white supremacy on our necks for 100. Everybody
Yeah.
knows this, like even if they don't have
Yes.
words to put to it. And the shift has come in the last 3 years where now it's like, especially like EDI work has shifted to like, oh, teach us, please teach us what we do. And it's like, teach you what you already know. Because you already know, because you knew in 2020, you knew there was a problem. Like, oh, about
Exactly.
my own
Yeah.
privilege. And it's just like, y'all, what are we doing?
Exactly. Like, and when it comes down
Exhausting.
to
It's
that, and
exhausting.
like, it's exhausting. And when it comes down to that, you know, it's like And the thing is, oftentimes they expect it for free.
Mm-hmm.
If you're going to put me through that, or if you want help, you know, you could pay. We have fees. Again, because that's also reliving trauma and having to describe our trauma for their understanding.
Mm-hmm.
Especially to a degree. Now, like, don't get me wrong, like everybody's different and we all have our different levels of what we're able to do. And if you see that there's someone genuinely wanting to learn and be educated, like absolutely go for it. But a lot of the times it's quite difficult and it takes a lot of energy and a lot of our own time to be able to do that and to share that, so it's like definitely EDI, and it's important, but be mindful of
Mm-hmm.
how you're going about it and especially what you're going to do after that, because you
Mm-hmm.
can't just bring somebody in and then listen and then do absolutely nothing, because then what will be the point of that?
Mm-hmm.
It's completely counterproductive of everything that you're trying to do.
And it's
You know,
disingenuous and it's abusive. It's
it
painful.
is.
Yeah.
It is. It is. Like the number of times that my younger, naive self, oh yeah, many, many hard lessons, but that's okay. But like literally being a trophy for an organization because, they're saying, oh, like it's literally just to fill in the seat with
Mm-hmm.
a Black person. Just fill in the seat. Or like with like any person of color, just to fill in that seat. Like you come in with the incentive of asking me for ideas to improve or to help with changes or to help to diversify your audience, but you're not even going to listen to what I have to say. I'm like, okay, I know I'm young, I get that, but it's like, if you brought me on here for a reason, what are you going to do about it? Nothing. So it's like wasting like my time with it. And again, it was with the group that I thought that I felt comfortable with or that I trusted with. But I realized it was only just a short few people, and and definitely you learn that quickly, especially when it comes down to having to make executive decisions, or a part of like a board who makes those executive decisions. And honestly, if everybody's not on board with that, it makes it so much harder. And it's like, yeah, abusive. It really is.
Yeah.
It really is. Ah, yeah, I just had flashbacks. Oh my God.
Well, happy Friday, everybody.
All the love and peace in the world. But how has that been like for you, especially within like in recent months and days and everything?
Ooh, for me?
Yeah.
Um, ooh. Yeah, it's it can be very, very just emotionally draining.
Mm-hmm.
Because for me, it's not just my job, but it's who I am. I walk into these spaces. I am a Black queer man. And I am, I think we talked a little bit about it, when Julie Bullock was on the show a couple of weeks ago. And I went into it really feeling like, I just sort of had the weight of the world on my shoulders. Like, it is my job to dismantle hundreds of years of, racism and white supremacy, or else I am not doing my job. And like Lee all the time would be like, that is no,
No.
stop doing that to yourself.
Yeah.
And I had to really sort of take it on sort of an individual level. But I do get really, really frustrated when it's like, all of a sudden these people are coming to me and it's like, teach me, teach me, teach me. And it's like, you already know this. And it really becomes like this, like the way that we're always sort of talking about, like sort of how, you know, you try to dismantle white supremacy culture and it just sort of regenerates itself. And I think this is like the process of that, of just like all of a sudden, like, oh, we know there's a problem, we're going to dismantle it, but now I'm just like a little baby and I don't know, like, teach me how.
Yeah.
Like, and then all of a sudden you're just sort of like, okay, like, I guess let's go back to square one, because like everyone's brains just reset at midnight, I guess.
I always worry that some of the issue is that people haven't really sat with what it is that they're asking for. And then when they get it, they're like, oh, this is not what I wanted. Because
Yep.
Exactly.
you know, equity is asking, you know, it is the expectation of equity is that people who have gotten more are suddenly understanding what the experience is to not get more than other people undeservedly, right? And I always feel like that's a part of why there's this weird push and pull, because I think that's just a really hard thing to process. And I feel like for those of us on the other side, especially those of us who are underrepresented in terms of our gender identity and our racial understandings of ourselves, instead just have to say, this is the thing that I'm doing, right? Here's what my project is. And, you know, my project is a commitment to Black joy. And I am using my art, I am using my admin skills, I am using the little bit of personal money that I have to sort of move the whole thing in that direction. And a new thing that I have started asking Black creatives every time I meet them is, what is your project, right? What do you want to use your art to communicate, not necessarily to the rest of the world, but to us, right? And I'm curious, Morgan, if you have that kind of a perspective about maybe what it is that you want your art to say to other people whose demographic identities tick the same boxes as yours.
Oh, gladly. Gladly. So actually, to kind of like give a little bit of a background to what it is I write about. So many years ago. So I because my dad passed away like a good few years back. But growing up, because I would write songs and I was composed and everything in my mid-teens, and he would try and he would record it. I love my father, but we did have a little bit of a difficult time. And so he always felt like my music was too honest, and always try to change the lyrics to suit what would be best for mainstream media, right? But I never felt comfortable with that. I didn't want to have to mute my own voice to make other people feel comfortable. Um, because he's like, oh, it's too depressing or it's too serious. It's like nobody's gonna listen to that. I'm like, okay. So then I stopped recording songs, but never really stopped writing. So I like writing poetry and everything throughout the years. But I never really recorded my singing for a long time. I just focused strictly on piano and classical because I was like training as a concert pianist and was ready to go full up for international competitions and going like basically going to school for it and everything like that. But it was a path that I was going on, but I embarking on, but I wasn't sure if it was actually something that I truly wanted to do. Because I still wanted to explore everything that was out there in terms of exploring sounds and meanings and references. So when I moved away from home, it was when I moved away from home, mine and my father's relationship, it started getting much better, which is great. Um, but then he passed after that. And it took me a good 2 years before I felt comfortable really singing again. Um, but I never stopped writing. That was my thing. I never stopped writing poetry or composing music. Like it kept going. I just never physically recorded. Um, and so having moved out the house and ironically, like with the changes in my life at the time, I finally felt free to really, really, really say what's on my mind, without any kind of fear of being held back. And so, unknowingly, just over the years, having studied so much of Western traditional music and having to kind of learn the basics of a lot of the languages like Italian, Latin, and Spanish and French. Well, I speak French fluently, but just kind of like focusing on a lot of those Western languages, right? But also realizing how the colonial aspect or the colonial impact that it has on music education, how it loves to put themselves on like the pedestal of everything, and like no other form of musical education is valid, and that's a whole other discussion for another day. Or
Listen,
for today.
that's a whole
Or for today.
episode.
That's what I'm telling you. So what I ended up doing is, but for one, I was always very interested in like Gothic periods and eras, and anything that has to do with just history. I'm very much a history buff. And I decided that a lot of my music over time had implements a lot of Latin text, but more so of the fact of kind of like reclaiming the language that was taken away from us, and but being used in a westernized way to reiterate the fact of its colonial impact. So the words that I say in Latin is not to praise that culture, but it's more so of, okay, I am basically dogging you down now. So just to let you know how it feels, what you've done with our languages that were taken away from us at that past time. And so my music specifically speaks of continuously seeking freedom for our communities and our right to speak and standing up for ourselves, as well as celebrating our joys and what we've done in our world in this time. So essentially, it's kind of like creating like a separate voice, not necessarily an alter ego because it's still myself, but to directly reference this, an example of it would be a commission that I was asked to do. Actually, a couple commissions I was asked to do that I decided to tie together. I created basically like a short form of a requiem, called Requiem for the Lost. And it is about the stolen voices, or the voices that were forced to silence, um, by those who, like, basically, like by those who are, forcing us to not be able to speak our minds or be who we are. And so there's just this ominous voice in the background who's speaking for all of those who had passed or all those who had died, just kind of like just haunting your subconscious, just haunting you from the back. And it's just like, I speak for everybody, and there is something happening that you don't exactly know what's going to happen, but just be aware or beware of what's to come. And so that voice is now silenced to that. So that's basically what the Requiem for the Lost is about, is this one ominous voice. And that's a theme that tends to continue or has a ongoing chain throughout my discography. And like the second commission that I connected to that is My Ancestor Summons Me. So you'll hear the voice of an ancestor talking to their talking to the next generations of like, don't worry, I am here with you, I will comfort you, I am your son, I am this for you, so you will never feel like you are alone, as the person's continuing to basically fight for their life just for existing. So that's kind of like a lot of the themes or the main projects that has been that I've been working on in terms of continuously describing in my music, in both in instrumental aspect as well as the vocal aspect.
That's incredible. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you for asking.
Well, I'm super curious about one thing. I know we said it was a whole episode on its own, and I'm sure it will be for us someday. But just talking about education, music education, in particular. And I'm just curious, what are your thoughts as somebody who has been through sort of the conservatory system and all of those things, and what needs to happen sort of in the music education space to, more robustly, let's say, support folks of color, queer folks, etc., etc.
Ooh, I am loving this. Oh, I'm loving this. Well, first off, to stop putting Western music and languages on a pedestal and seeming like it is the only worthy way or only way to prove your worthiness as a musician. That is something that really puts a bad taste in my mouth, because you're basically telling everybody else who does not study that or has a music education under that specific umbrella that they're not musicians or they're not good enough. Like, that seriously rubs me the wrong way. And instead of having it as like a separate course, one separate course, might I add, or very few separate courses, unless you go in the direction of like getting your degree in it, is how like world music is just one separate thing. But then everything else encompasses Western traditional music. Like, that balance does not seem right to me. And
Well, just
like
the fact that it's called world music.
right,
It's just like one little
That
class.
never made sense.
It doesn't
it
make
doesn't
sense.
make sense.
We lumped the rest of the whole world into one category.
Into one category. And even then, they ain't got the right things in there. In terms of actual education of it all, it's like it's putting it's putting everybody together in one category, but then you're not even diving into what the actual cultural reasons behind every single rhythm, every single movement for every single continent or every single country, and you want to put that underneath one chord. I'm sorry, how does that, the math ain't mathing on this
it's
at
absurd
all.
when you like say it out loud.
So like it's well, for one, not to ball it up all together, to actually take time and create separate degree programs for it. If you want to get a paper in it, have separate degree programs in it, or at least in like the whole musical sense, not have it just strictly for Western traditional music, but make sure that you have your students to actually get to know as much as they can to build musicianship, because the whole thing about musicianship is you're never stop learning. You're never an expert in just everything or just one thing. Like, you have to be able to be open to what is out there, and also what is your birthright. If you are POC, what is your birthright? It is your right to know what your culture is, what is innate to you musically, historically, artistically, just all those things. It is our birthright.
Bingo.
And
Yahtzee. Uno. Feel very strongly about that. Yes.
thank you. Thank you. So it should not, there shouldn't be a value put on that, of the worthiness of what our birthright is for each and everybody. And what they just decide is just, oh no, we'll just do, oh no, Aida and Madame Butterfly is the perfect representation.
Mm. Mm.
And I know we all know how we feel about that.
I believe we fired them both out of the canon a couple of years ago.
Yeah, yeah. We know they're inadequate, to say the least.
And ready to light that cannon again at literally any minute because none of our feelings have changed about that.
It's ridiculous. And it's just downright insulting that still in this day in the 21st century in 2023 that there are still opera companies that do that without even hiring POC. And even when they do, that's the only time they want to hire us.
Mhm.
Like, how does that how is that right? Again, you're just rebuilding and just regurgitating that trauma for people, and they're not even thinking about that at all. So yeah, there needs to be an addition to actually, you know, having a separate program for each and every individual thing, because nothing should just be balled up together. There should also be a separate course of on honestly just a straight up equity and equality course, and how to actually listen to like communications. It should be a part of communications, which I'm sure there must be some form of it, but in terms of actually understanding the reason why this is an issue, it has to be a part of this. And it's just
It's a lot. I didn't mean to stress you out.
Oh no, it's all good. See, the one thing I love about this is how we're all able to talk about this, and we're
Mhm.
all, in our places where we feel comfortable and relaxed, and we got whichever teas or coffees or whatever beverages we prefer to sip on during this. So no, I am Gucci. I am so Gucci right now. This is like no.
Oh,
This
good. Well,
this
that's
is
what
good.
that's always our aim when we have guests in our home.
Yeah.
I as I'm continuously learning about things. I'm an Aries, so I get fiery. So
Oh.
I'm understanding based on my horoscope, I get kind of fiery about things. So it's just a part of my nature,
Okay,
apparently.
okay.
It's
Well,
totally fine.
well, you are talking to two Sagittarians, so
It's all right.
so we
We
get
get
it.
it. We
We
know a
get it.
little something about fire.
Yeah.
Um,
And I'm a Gemini rising, so I will never shut up about it. So
Yep.
So this is perfect.
yeah,
This
no,
is
this is
completely perfect.
perfect job for me.
Oh, yeah.
But I'm looking at the clock and we only have a couple minutes left. But I want to make sure that we get what you're currently working on out to the people. So what are you working on right now? What's making you happy? And how can people catch up with Morgan-Paige Melbourne and learn all the fabulous things that you're doing?
Ooh, well, currently what I'm working on is actually still under wraps and is a little bit of a secret.
Oh, okay.
But
She's got
um
secrets, honey.
we got some secrets, just wiping a little bit of the baby hairs and the sweat off my brow. um but definitely there will be really, really big things in November happening then. But in the meantime, you can find me on all my social medias. Instagram has my link to everything, which is at all lowercase morgan.page.m. You can find everything there. I still have my music up on Bandcamp as well if you feel so inclined to listen and to support the arts that I do. But yeah, otherwise everything is still in production and a little bit under wraps, so I can't quite say much about it for right now. But yeah.
All right. Well, cannot wait till November till
exciting.
all the secrets are revealed, honey. And meanwhile, all of those links to Instagram and Bandcamp and all of that good stuff will be down in the show notes. So everybody, please go check out Morgan Page and her music. And we are so excited and honored that you spent some time with us today. Thank you so much for being with us. This was so fun.
Thank you so much for inviting me on. This was so wonderful. It was so lovely to chat with you all and be a part of this. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Oh, yay, yay, yay. Thank you. And we will be right back, everybody, with pure Black joy. Woohoo!
Yay.
Yay! All right, and we're back. Thanks once again to Morgan-Paige for being with us. Fabulous, fabulous, fabulous.
That was wonderful.
Yes, it was. Yes, it
Yay.
was. And now it is time for our favorite segment of the show. Paige, are you ready?
Ready.
And a 1, and a 2, and a 1, 2, 3, 4.
It's peanut butter jelly time, peanut butter jelly time, peanut butter jelly time, peanut butter jelly, peanut butter jelly, peanut butter jelly with a baseball bat, peanut butter jelly, peanut butter jelly, peanut butter jelly with a baseball bat, peanut butter jelly, PB&J time.
Ooh, I love this. I love that we have landed on this like smooth, quiet storm moment. Oh my goodness. Yes, everyone, it is time for Pure Black Joy. It is the time when we highlight some of the Black people, places, music, art, food, things that are making us super duper happy this week. I'm just gonna go first real quick and just say that last week the Renaissance tour started in Stockholm. And I can feel my queen getting closer and closer and closer to me. I feel like my superpowers have been activated. I'm trying everything in my power to not look at the spoilers, not look at the concert footage. I have been mildly successful. I've only watched 2 songs. I've watched Heated and Energy. But that's it. And I think I have and I think I have my outfit together. I bought some very cute purple shorts that I'm very excited about. But anyway, Beyonce. That's my pure Black joy. Thank you so much to Beyonce and to Tina Knowles and even Matthew Knowles.
Not even.
For blessing us with such artistry and grace. Okay, that's my pure Black.
Yeah. Am I maybe looking at outfits right now? Do I have several tabs open because I saw the concert footage this week? Maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, I have a friend that I went to elementary and high school with that I haven't talked to in ages, not because, you know, anything salacious or anything, but just because we've lost touch. Found out she's now an influencer on TikTok.
Oh,
So,
snap.
I know. So followed
Oh.
her. I cannot remember her handle off the top of my head, but hey, Jessica Wagstaff, shout out. But she did one about like what she's gonna wear to the Renaissance tour, and she's like, everybody out here is just gonna be dressed like a slore, and we just need to just accept it and just lean in. And I was just like, yeah, that's about right. But anyway, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's what I plan to do.
I mean, that's what I'm gonna do. So you know.
Why not?
You already know.
Why not? You know, hello? A certain someone in my life was like, maybe I'll wear pasties. And I was like, if there was ever a time to, this is it.
Well, that's an idea.
So, you know, wear your pasties, wear your bootyless chaps, all those situations that you have, your mesh situations that you got in the back of the closet. Because Beyonce is in town, and who's gonna check you?
I mean,
who's gonna check you?
And I did get served on Instagram an ad to a rhinestone glitter cowboy hat, and I'm seriously considering it.
Yeah.
That
I feel like
algorithm, man.
I mean, that
they advertised to me a whole purple rhinestone with a matching hat cowgirl outfit bodysuit situation, and I was like,
What?
so you know I have tickets to Renaissance?
They know.
Dang, this is highly specific right now.
Yeah, we're the vinyl singlet with the bum out.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, all I'm getting is like West Elm ads on my social media. My algorithm is just not clearly.
Well, you're just a different kind of gay. It's all the same family. It's all the same family.
Meanwhile, mine is like, do you need a new body chain?
20% discount to jock straps are us. That's what my algorithm looks like right now.
Well, my pure black joy has to do with another musical icon. The misdemeanor
yes.
Elliott will be inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
He sure will.
Yes. Or actually, I think it just happened. I think it already happened. I may possibly. So I was also, honestly, when this happened, I was also like, so she's not already?
Seriously.
But you know, now is better than never. I'm glad, she is here to smell and receive her flowers.
Yep.
So many flowers that folks have given her. I love it. I'm here for it. Missy Elliott was just so formative to my life, to just representation as a weird, thick black girl. Like, she was just, I don't know, just a shining star to me in my childhood. And the dancing and the costumes and her flow, and that she could be a tomboy or still be real overtly sexual, and just, yes, give her all the flowers, induct her into every hall of fame.
Oh, absolutely.
Give her
no question.
Yeah.
All the things.
Absolutely.
All the things.
She's absolutely going to be getting like lifetime achievement awards coming up soon. I can see that for her, because there's just already that body of work that she has. So yeah. And it's so fresh with her sound that new girls still want to work with her. Still want to work with her. Kids who are coming up who are like 18-year-olds, little girl groups and stuff are like, we need to get Missy. Like, an icon, just so deserving. So deserving.
And also host of the most slept on reality show of the mid 2000s, Missy Elliott's Road to Stardom. That was an amazing show.
Oh, that was a good show. That was a really
Nobody thinks about it.
Yeah.
If there is a rerun, some reality TV reruns to watch, I might.
It has to be somewhere. It has to be streaming somewhere, because it was so good. It was so fun.
Yes. Oh, I bet she runs a competitive but wholesome show, I feel like. Or am I wrong? Were there fights? Were there brawls?
I don't remember there being brawls. I remember it being pretty wholesome, but it was just fun, because they were all on a tour bus and they would have to like battle each other, and then like she and like her two homegirls would like, they were the judges, and like it was just quite cool. I remember we saw, me and two of my friends saw one of the contestants like in a bodega, like buying a 40 in Philadelphia, and we were like, no!
This reminds me of one other thing to just praise Missy for real quick is that she also has always consistently uplifted all the elements of hip hop
Yeah.
in her work, in her music videos, from b-boys and b-girls to the dancers, the breakers, there's even graffiti in some of her videos, like just really embracing like the whole culture. She's a real one. Just yeah.
Shout out to Missy.
Three. She and I have that weird family connection. I think I've told the two of you, but not said it on the show. Her mom and my dad were classmates in high school. So I've always felt like a bit of a kinship with her because I enjoyed hearing a couple of rather humorous stories about the antics of our parents ages and ages ago. So also shout to IC Norcom High School in Portsmouth, Virginia, class of 1971.
Yeah,
I believe.
VA.
I have a very brief piece of PB&J that is actually something of a how do you say a revisitation of something that Paige shared a few weeks ago. I watched Queen Cleopatra, which is part of Jada Pinkett's African Queens.
I didn't realize that was a part of it. It came up yesterday, and I was like, oh, what is this?
Yeah, it's part of Jada's franchise. It is excellent, right? And I think there's a lot of this conversation around what I read one person referring to as blackwashing, the decision to cast right Cleopatra, like for once, with a darker complexion woman of African descent, seemingly has turned the world on its ear. And I think it's actually an important conversation that we should be having about actors, identity, the unreliability of the historical record when it comes to placing Black people in the moments where we fully existed, right? And also shifting definitions of what it is to be Black or white. Like, I mean, I just think the conversation is kind of wild looking at it from that kind of historical perspective. But all of that aside, the series is great. Adele James, who plays Cleopatra, is absolutely wonderful. I think she's got a huge career in front of her, and I would encourage folks to check it out because it's an important part of Black history.
Yeah, shout out to the talent that they seem to have found for that show. Because same thing that I had comment that I had about Njinga, the first season, just the lead actor. I hadn't seen her before, but shoot, I hope these ladies they're casting continue to get work because it sounds like they're killing it.
Yeah.
No, I'm definitely gonna watch that because like I was on Netflix yesterday and it came up and I was like, oh, what is this? Like this is interesting. And I ended up watching something else. But like, no, I'm definitely gonna go back to that because like that sounds awesome.
Yeah, you absolutely should. And if I may plug one thing, I know we're over quote time, but I am going to be on a podcast on Tuesday.
You're cheating on us.
Well, I got me a new
putting it out in the open,
I guess. Right. Can we pause, Lee? We need to talk to you real quick.
Okay. Cheating on a Sagittarius, that's a choice.
I It's called Fluency with Dr. Darrell Cooper, and he talks to artists, art administrators, arts educators, really about, what it is to be Black and an artist in this moment where we are having so many inflection points. He asked a lot of really thoughtful questions, and it was also just really fun to be on the other side of the table and, sort of have to pause and think about how my work actually might connect to the broader ecosystem in a way that I don't always have to sit with, right? Like usually if you're an administrator, I feel like you think about your work being finite and sort of contoured by this is the organization where I work or the city in which I work and this is the work that I do. But he asked me a lot of questions that reminded me that like this is kind of a movement and it's great to be a part of the movement, and it's also great to be on a show where he's had so many guests that I'm really enamored of their work. Garrett McQueen, Chris Emden, Majora Carter. It was just a very happy conversation. So y'all should check that out if you are struggling with the Lee Bynum deficiency and get you a little little dose of vitamin Lee. Oh my God.
Ooh,
Oh,
okay.
oh,
Oh, okay.
you just did something.
yeah.
Ooh,
I think I might
all
have.
right. Well, make sure you send me the link to that and I'll put it in the show notes.
Absolutely.
Okay, sounds good. Well, everyone go check that out. Go check out Morgan-Paige Melbourne on all of her socials and Bandcamp, and please go buy her music, support her. And I think that's it for today. Oh, before we go though, we should say last Sunday was Mother's Day, so happy Mother's Day to all the mamas. And any words of wisdom, y'all? Make sure you take your vitamin Lee.
Yeah.
All right. And with that, I think we're out. Make sure that you rate and review us and subscribe. 5 stars, please, and some words. I haven't actually checked in a while. Maybe somebody wrote some words. Did y'all do the score challenge? Because that's still a thing. Go to Apple, 5 stars, and just write the word perfection. Period. That's all you have to do. That is all you have to do. And with that, I think we're out for another 2 weeks. I'm super excited about our next show. Paige, do you wanna give a little preview, or should we just let them be surprised?
I'm gonna let you be surprised.
Okay, all right. Well, it's gonna be fabulous.
I'm gonna let you be surprised. Yeah.
All right, so stay stay tuned for a wonderful surprise in 2 weeks, and we'll see you then. Bye.
Bye.